way too much going on. Yes. That's not my problem. Apparently you're talent and you come in when you want. So I don't know what to tell you right now. Like, everybody, again, he's talent, and so he decides, even when I'm ready sitting here waiting, that he should come in when he wants. But I digress. I digress. How is everyone doing? I hope everybody is having a good day. We are waiting for people to join. Thank you for everybody who's already joining us. What a rotted clock.
Yeah, okay,
yeah, you joined. Yes, you joined. But it's because I'm sharing with people. Whatever. Hello, everyone. Hello, Dahlia Joanne.
Hey, John.
Hello, Roxmac. I am going to go in myself so I know exactly who's in here. Hey, Mama Judith. Like, I am just sending. I'm like literally just sending. I don't know who I'm sending to, but now I'm sending from you. He says he should have gotten his hair cut, but again, he's got all of this time and then he decides.
No, I don't get off until 5.
Didn't you buy clippers specifically to cut your hair? Then what is it for?
To keep my beard from looking wild.
Oh, that's a thing. Okay. Okay. I just want to know. I didn't understand. Okay, so the clippers are for
the hair. Start going past my lip.
Okay, so clippers are not for you to.
No, I prefer someone with barber skills.
Okay. I've got barber skills.
I'm hanging on for dear life up here.
I've got barber skills.
You know what I'm saying?
I've got barber skills.
No.
You're ignoring me completely.
No, I am.
Like, you're completely ignoring me.
You are talented at doing hair.
I'm great at doing hair. I do everybody's hair.
We may get better, but I don't know if it's that easy.
Hi. Wagwan Popcorn. What is going on? Hello, Angie. Thank you for joining. We are going to get started shortly. Sorry, I'm watching 2 screens because we can hardly see on my phone that we're recording, but then we have the iPad in front of us so we can read. So we got to do the peripherals and do it all. But
actually, I'm not that good yet. Let's see my eyes switch.
Okay. Okay, and thank you for everybody who has once again filled out the survey. It came a little late this week, so my apologies, but people did fill it out. And basically, we're going to be talking about whether people are getting in their own way when dating or looking for a partner, because dating is very different than dating with intention and actually wanting to be in something. And we just finished listening to Kevin Samuels ream out this young lady, and it was actually quite hilarious. Hey, Aisha. Aisha said, hey, Sheba girl. Hey, niece Aisha. She's all about her auntie. I'm just saying, okay? She said, hey, Sheba girl. Okay, she knows what's up. I'm just sending this show to everybody who I feel will benefit from this conversation. So excuse me for a second, because I'm trying to make sure that we go viral. I'm just saying, because we got a lot to say. Oh, and sent. Okay. Hey, Tony, all the way from Jamaica. Wagwan. See, he's coming directly. I said the word Jamaica. I didn't actually say anything about me being Jamaican. There's a difference.
We're not going to count every week.
No, but there is a difference between me saying I'm Jamaican and me saying to somebody that, hey, they're from Jamaica.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay? But again, for all the Jamaicans,
I'll do that the best sound effects, though.
Yeah, Jamaicans as a whole are generally the best
DJs
people.
got the best sound effects. Like they go, the horn just...
Don't do that again. Good try, though. You tried. You know, the merging of cultures, you really did try. Again, welcome to our show, Fuck Your Feelings, the show where we are trying to change the conversation around Black relationships relationships by every once in a while saying, you know what, you gotta fuck your feelings. I think we, in our particular relationship, again, if you weren't here for the first show, the first time he said it to me, it kind of stung, but I got it. He's a person who's about logic, and if I try to bring emotions and things, sometimes they can derail. And I think a lot of us are guilty, male and female, of often bringing our own subjective viewpoints to conversations, and they end up being derailed. I actually had someone the other day, he's not on, but he said to me that he actually broke up with his girlfriend by telling her to fuck her feelings. Now, we are not advocating breakups, that's not what worked out, but he said he realized after watching our show that life was too short to be staying with someone who he wasn't truly happy with, and so he told her, fuck your feelings. So our show is already making changes in people's lives.
I think so too. And male or female, sometimes there's a timer going off in your partner's head and you don't realize it, and it could be ding at any moment, you know. That's kind of why we want to change the conversation. Maybe if you would have had a more direct conversation as to why the timer was up in the first place, it might not have got to that point. So
all of that.
To each his own. I know men especially get to the point where they feel like I'm just talking to a wall or whatever, and I think women do too, you know. I think y'all get to that point too. But when a person gets to feeling that way, yeah, the clock's ticking on the relationship, I think.
But I think, again, you know, this is why we you know, we're kind of having this show. You know, he wanted to call it blocking your blessings, and I just wanted to call it, are you getting in your own way? Because not everybody in your life that comes in is a blessing. So true. I think a lot of the times, men and women is asking, are you getting in your own way because you have determined or created this relationship in your head that may or may not be attainable, right? I think we're fed these fairy tale fantasies of what relationships are supposed to be about, and we get caught up in them, and we go into things with these lists of non-negotiables and nice to have, but they're not necessarily realistic. I agree with lists. I think lists are important. I think if you're dating with intention, you should know what it is that you're looking for in a partner and also what you bring to the partnership. However, the key to these lists is they actually have to be realistic.
Not delusional.
Because we are hashtag cancel delusion.
Cancel delusion. Not Dave Chappelle. You're not going to do that.
No, we're not canceling Dave Chappelle. But we are canceling delusions, and so that was really why we wanted to have this conversation. And you know, I'm going to go into the poll a little earlier in the show that I normally do, but I asked 5 questions on the poll, and it's number 1: have you heard of the 80-20 rule? 100% of the people said yes. Do you believe in the 80-20 rule? 75% said yes, and 25% said no. For the single people I asked, do you have a non-negotiable or nice-to-have list for dating? 100% said yes. For the married people I asked, how much of your list did your partner meet? 0 to 50% or 51% to 100%? 100% said 51% to 100%. And then my last question, were our lists important when dating? 80% said yes and 20% said no. I was actually said to the people who, the 25% who said they didn't believe in the 80-20 rule, because I would be curious to know. I don't have the particular people who said no. I don't know if they're on, but I would be curious for the people who are on, who know about the 80-20 rule, who don't believe in it. Why? And for the people who do believe in it, why? Because I think the 80-20 rule is definitely an interesting concept. And I think a lot of us learned it, whether it's from TV or reading relationships book. But the reality is, I don't think you get 100% of what you want. So why would the 80-20 rule not also apply in partnership? Because I definitely didn't get 100% of what I want with you.
That's cool though. Like, 80% is really good by most metrics, you know.
It's an A. It's an A in school. I got A's. And A pluses. I know those are not familiar grades to you.
That might be that Canadian grading scale. But
the better school system, but I digress.
Like, I don't even understand why. I think that's just breaking down a simple concept in a mathematical percentage, 80%, 20%. as in, why would you even expect to get everything that you want out of any situation? Again, I lean back to one of the things I really liked about, studying money and economics and finances was the idea of the opportunity cost. A little quick economics lesson real quick. An opportunity cost is simply stating that by choosing A, you forego B. That doesn't seem like a hard concept, but I do feel in this world that we're in, people are trying to avoid that rule.
Do you know that that's when I find you the sexiest, when you're like teaching something?
Oh.
Like I had a little moment a little second ago. I had a little moment, people, because he was over here teaching, so I was like, oh!
Okay. Professorial stuff.
I'm just saying, you were over here teaching.
No, I really dug that because that just hit hard for me personally. Like, no matter where you're looking at it, whether it's resources, whether it's affection, love, money, anything. When I take this job, I gave up all of the other jobs. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what the 80-20 rule simplifies to me, is that when you get with a partner, you're getting with a human. So no matter what kind of human they are, no matter what their personality, no matter how great they may be, there's still going to be deficiencies. There's good, bad, and ugly to all of them.
Well, our girl Dahlia Joanne said, in short, you can't get everything you want, so make sure you have 80% of the things that you need, deal breakers, and the 20% remaining are the throwaways. Which actually, girl, I know you would be on point, because that's what I wanted to talk about, our needs versus our want. Because often when we're out there dating, a lot of us date for what we want, but not the person we need.
I think most people have a hard time recognizing what they need. It's very easy to identify what you... Well, first off, I think, and this, again, y'all can get on me if you want, but I think especially females, y'all fall a bit victim to this, in that you can say what you don't want first. Maybe you can quantify what you want, and what you actually might need is probably way down that list.
Well, it's so funny because we did, and I wouldn't say it was a little experiment, but we'll go through profiles on Tinder, right? And it was so interesting going through female profiles on Tinder, how many of them had the, if you're this, and this, negative. Don't bother to swipe.
Negative.
And it was very much like, okay, so who should swipe, right? So you're on a dating site, and you've already put your worst foot forward. I get the fact that, again, we have non-negotiables, we have nice-to-haves, we have all of that. But you've already eliminated a bunch of men, and a man who may want you is looking at that and saying, oh, this just comes off negative. I don't know if I want to deal with this person.
He might not have a problem with any of those knots, but it's still the tone of your presentation is off.
But then looking at male dating, there wasn't a lot of that.
I don't know. I don't look at male dating.
No, I did. I was looking at both. So I looked at the male because I'm curious. What are women saying versus, because we hear a lot of, and again, Tinder, people say it's a hookup site, whatever. It's where we met. I think there's a lot of success stories off Tinder if you're dating intentionally. I think there can be a lot of success stories going to the bar. You can go to the library. I think if you're dating intentionally and you're putting your best foot forward, you can meet someone anywhere. That's always been my big belief.
They named the movie The Social Experiment, man. I find this stuff fascinating. I study Instagram almost. There's a whole different demographics to social media. It's there's the reality of the person, and then there's the social. It's like that term avatar. I play video games, so for the non-gamers, avatar is like your digital representation of yourself, right? I think that social media is a lot of avatars out there. It's not really an accurate representation of who that person is. It's how they want to be viewed in this world. But the thing is, in video games, you got to turn the video game off. With social media, it's 24/7 nonstop.
Well, Polo, thank you, Polo GSXR. He says, us men are simple. Our lists are very simple. The ladies' list is much more complex.
I agree. I would even say that for men, our 80-20, like the 20% ain't even, it's like annoying. It's like, it ain't even like we really tripping off of it. It's just like, I think women have a harder time with the 20% than men do. Because, again, we get the fact that nobody's perfect. Because we don't get that perception from the dating world. You know what I'm saying? Even if a chick is completely into you, she got some criticisms for your behind, you know what I'm saying? Like, real talk. But women, because men pursue women the way that they do, and a lot of y'all are capping ass liars, it will just say anything to try to get in them boots. A lot of women don't really have an accurate representation of what their value is out here on these streets.
So, our boy Kevin Samuels, Uncle Samuels, Uncle Kevin, we like to call him in this household, he talks about a woman's sexual marketplace value. And essentially, your dating situation and the type of men you attract should tell you the type of men you should get. But often when women come on these shows, they have a completely unrealistic expectation of the type of men that they're actually getting. I actually was just watching a show, and he was talking about whether, you know, as black men and women, we should really be expanding our horizons and starting dating more outside of our race. This one woman came on, she was 47 years old with a 21-year-old daughter, and she was saying, yes, she's ready to expand. And he said to her, well, when's the last time a man outside of a black man came up to you and approached you? And she said, you know, a year ago, with the intention of taking you on a date. She said a year ago. He's like, okay, so did you guys go? She said, oh no, I didn't want to go. He was like, okay, well then that doesn't count. And he was like, did you know this person? She's like, yeah, I knew him. That's why I didn't want to go. And he was like, so no one's actually approaching you. You want to expand your options, but the reality is you don't actually have options to expand. And it was hard for her to hear, but everything she had said was pointing to the fact that she didn't have options. She wasn't meeting them in church. She wasn't meeting them in the grocery store. She wasn't meeting them at the gym. She said she goes 3 times a week. She just wasn't meeting anybody. But in her mind, she could expand her options even though no options existed. I don't mean to laugh at this poor lady, but it's incredibly funny.
It's kind of funny, you know. But I think it's just that's how difficult it is. Most people date inside the pool of who they know. Who you know. I work in financial services. I can tell you, especially pre-pandemic, that in that office was like college dormitories. You know what I'm saying? As far as who's messing with who and who dealing with who and things like that. So like workplace, outside of like church, workplace, social circles, like that's most people's dating pool right there. Most people aren't really effectively making an effort to be like she says, dating with intention. I wasn't dating intentionally. I just kind of stumbled upon it. I don't even think that I was looking at it like that. And I don't think you were either. You know, it was, well, maybe more so like had an idea of what you were wanting.
Yes.
I was just kind of like
out in the streets.
I want somebody that's going to deal with me myself and the fact that I just don't care.
Well, Polo GSX are women always have options. I don't.
They have, well, what are we talking about?
No, there is a difference. Let me say, women will always have men who want to fuck them. We're on Instagram. I hope they don't shut us down. I'm not on the radio. Women will always have options of who wants to fuck them. Women don't always actually have an option of who wants to wife them. They're two different things. And I think that is the reality that women have brought into the world. Just because he'll screw you in private doesn't mean he'll necessarily have you out in public. And I'm gonna that's some real talk. That's the problem that we're having now, right? And we've been taught as women, we can have it all. We should have it all. And so honestly, a lot of our lists have these unrealistic expectations because we're being taught that we can have it all and the world will welcome, and that's just not true. That's not what I taught my daughter. That's not what I'm teaching our daughter. Like, you cannot have it all. And so, yeah, you might have options. You know, certainly have children.
Man.
There are women with children who've never been in a relationship. Riddle me that.
There's a lot of craziness in this stuff. Like Kevin gets on about like they, you know, like, and let's be true. Like either you dating with intention or you having a good time. Dudes tend to be more comfortable with the having a good time part, and it can lead into something. Females, like, well, again, females don't necessarily like it when a guy is just looking for a good time and he leads you on and thinking it's something different. But on the flip of that, like, there's a term if a man just takes sexual liberties with you, is called sexual assault and rape. So we all, as men, we only have access to what y'all give us.
Ooh!
You understand? So like the term fuckboy, I don't think that's new, and I think how you define it is different. I think there's the definition, like just like a trashy dude, like he ain't really about nothing. And I'm like, okay, that's one. Then if that's the definition, he shouldn't get no play
At all.
And then there's the definition of fuckboy that's just exactly what it's called, like he just want fuck. I think a lot of men fall into that category. And if you out there running around playing in the streets with fuckboys, like that's on you.
You can't play with the pigs and come out dirty and wonder why you're dirty. And listen, and it's harsh. And you know, I tend to take a very hard line when it comes to women dating. Here's 3 questions I think women need to be asking men if they're dating with intention. I don't care what date you ask it on, but it needs to be asked before you jump in bed with a man. If you're a woman who's looking for children, who might have children, who's looking for a stepdaddy, Brittany Renner said it was stepdaddy season. Couple of questions you should ask. 1, do you have children? Yes or no? If he says no, do you want children? Yes or no? If he says yes, would you have children with me? Yes or no? If he says yes, if I were to get pregnant in this time frame, would you stay? Because wanting children and wanting children with you is very different. Wanting children with you and wanting them soon is another question. Like, and I think we're going out there because you're right. Like, I get to determine who gets underneath this dress.
It's the rules of engagement in nature. Like, man, we done got so far away from it. Like, look, the men are the hunters, and it sounds misogynistic, but the women, y'all are the prey. We have to catch y'all. We have to get y'all. We have to pursue y'all. We have to go after y'all. Look here. Just like when you out there in the woods hunting, because deers don't want to be shot and killed and eaten, they don't make it easy for you. You know what I'm saying? So if a woman's intention is to have a long-term relationship and a family and to build a life with a man, then she should reserve herself only for men that are willing and able to pursue her in those aspects. But since the dawn of time, a lot of females seem to think that just because you identify a man like, oh, I want him, like just like men totally understand the concept. I used to play ball, that there's a pool of females out here that is not for relationships, they for having a good time. I don't think women really get that. That there's a pool of men that are out there that are not for having relationships with. They're for having a good time.
Amen.
So if you're not wanting to be one of the good time girls, then get out of the water.
Oof. So, while they think about that one, Cast Forever Rising say that's why women have to up their game. And I'd be curious, girl, what kind of things do you think that women need to do to up their game? I'm very curious what some of those things are. And Polo GSXR said, a man can say anything, it's all about actions. I completely agree. I would say 80% is what a man does. 20% is what he says. That's my 80-20 rule. Right? I have my degrees in psychology, so I've always been keen on nonverbal communication because there's a lot of people speaking, but their actions are so completely opposite from what they've actually said. And there's like, Rob is kind of the strong silent type. He won't say a lot, but then he'll do. And that's how he shows his love. right? He does. He won't speak. He's, again, not the most, oh my God, I love you, love you, love you. But he'll do something, and it will be the smallest thing, but it's to show me that. And to me, that's what's important. Our love languages are actually very different, but he does try. He does still tell me he loves me and all of that stuff at night. He whispers it in my ear at night, which is so super sweet. But again, I watch his actions. It's not so much what he says or doesn't say. I watch his actions. Yeah, there we go. And the things he doesn't say or do. That's important.
You know where he lives after 5 months.
Okay, so here was a situation that, listen, and for the ladies that are on that are single,
I didn't even know you could.
Don't be this woman, okay? So I have 2 stories to tell. I have 2 stories because my best friend just said the bridge, Vegas, that's all.
Yeah, the infamous
I'm gonna tell that story. No, I'm gonna tell that story first. Okay. I am deathly afraid of bridges and heights. Like deathly hyperventilating, so forth. My daughter came to visit me. I had this idea that I wanted to drive to Vegas. I asked Rob, are there bridges on the way? He thinks I'm talking, I guess, about the San Francisco bridge, so he says no.
That's what I'm thinking when you be like bridges.
He says no.
Pretty noticeably on.
So instead of flying to Vegas, we decided to take a road trip. Well, actually, there was 2 bridges I passed. One, I had a moment, I got over it, but the next was the Hoover Dam. I was on the side of the road for about an hour and a bit, crying, hyperventilating. It was just a terrible situation. I eventually got over it because there was no way for me to turn around. However, I was not going to drive back. So, we had a whole thing about it, but this man got on a plane at about 6:30 after he had finished work on the day I was supposed to come back, and he got to Vegas at 8 o'clock, and he drove me and my daughter back home. That to me was a sign of love. Now, he told me he didn't like it, and I didn't want to hear it, but there are some men who wouldn't have done that. He got it. He was like, babe, it's a bridge, like, man up, basically, like, and I was like, I can't do it. So, and he got on a plane. He got on a plane and he got in the car and literally turned right back around to get back to where we are. That was a sign of love. And I appreciate you for that. See, people said real, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I saw big shit not the whole way back, because my dad was like, and that's another thing, anger is one of them emotions, in my opinion, you kind of got to hold on to. Like, you got to, like, make a point to be like, I'm mad. So, like, once we got in the car and we started driving, and it wasn't mad. What it became, ironically and funny, is annoyed. Because then, again, so the same person that is afraid to drive, right, is over there. You know the little thing? She's grabbing that. And I'm like, you want to drive? I'm flying. I'm trying to get back home. Like, and shit.
Was I that bad?
It was just annoying,
but he did it, and I love him for it. So, all about it. So, I appreciate him. And again, he gave me big shit about it before, but he got on the plane, and he was there for me, and I will forever love him for it.
The funny part of it, though, just, again, how fear can just take you over and make you like, who are you? She was talking about, I'm gonna ask somebody, because there's like a little area where you can get off,
yes,
get off and like walk over the pedestrian bridge going over the dam, right? She's talking about, I'm gonna ask somebody to get in the car with them, drive across the bridge, pull over, and then
get out. I wanted to stop somebody who was in it. Listen, I watched a lot of Criminal Minds, and I know that it's really dangerous. But the point I was at hyperventilating, I was at the point I was like, maybe I'll just ask a passenger.
I remember thinking that, like, if you do that, I hope you get murdered.
This is what I deal with. But anyways, love him and appreciate him. Trey was with me. Thank you. So a question passed by that I do want to answer. So actually, I wanted to tell this another story before I did. So ladies, if you're single and a man is said that she was dating a man and they were in, I guess, some relationship, but after 5 months of dating, he had been to her home, but she had never been to his home. Let's be clear. That woman is in a relationship with a single man. Single man.
No,
there are a lot of women in relationships with single men because, again, Robin said it best. Men decide when they're in a relationship, not women. And if a man will not bring you into his life, even into his home, to even cook him a meal, clean him toilet, something, that's not your man, baby girl.
You are in bad shape if he does not want you to know where you live. Either he got a whole other situation that he's keeping you completely separate from, or you're in that booty call-ish fear of relationships where it's like,
I better not let her know where I live in case she starts throwing things at my house or slashing my tires or something.
Yeah, like I could stop dealing with this woman at any moment and I don't want no blowback on it, basically.
So red flags, those again are actions. I would not be, we used to live in different countries and I had his address. Because should anything happen and I heard something happen, I needed to know where he was. Because the first thing a woman does when she's apart from her man, if something happens in the area that he lives in or works in, is she wants to know what's the address to determine if her man's okay. She can't reach him on the phone. So imagine saying that you're with someone for 5 months and that person hasn't let you into their life at all. And they were older. So they were like 40s into 50s. So there were no children in the home or any reason why that couldn't be happening. So again, red flag, red flag. So we have a couple of questions and I want to get to one of the questions is, should relationship compatibility be based on astrology signs? I had a huge debate on this.
Not as a rule of thumb, but as somebody who only got turned on to astrology in a couple of years, like in the last few years, I would say maybe it's just coincidence.
We're twin flames.
That, and I have like very low compatibility with both of my children's mother astrologically. So maybe it's just a coincidence.
So astrology was actually a big part of our relationship. And it's funny, he was the one who introduced it first. And we were talking about it and he was sending me things. And the first thing he sent me, I died because it said something I'd never mentioned to anybody else in my life. And there it was, like in black and white, in the astrology. So, and it turns out that we were twin flames.
And it's funny, it kind of, the dynamic that we live in today is kind of like how the stars would have, quote unquote, aligned it or whatever. We're very yin and yang, you know what I'm saying?
We are very yin and yang. For good or for bad. Mm-hmm. Love you so much.
But we're also like very rooted in it is what it is, and we kind of identify that other person, what they bring to it is, it might not be, look, what you need usually doesn't come in
a nice pretty package.
Tasty packages. Like, that's why when you was a kid, they used to have to put your medicine in like some jelly or something, like, you know, that's why they got gummy vitamins and all that. Look, man, like the things that you need usually aren't your favorite things in the world. Like, that's change. What were we talking last week? Change is always going to be difficult, and I think that's a big part of relationships, is someone who changes you for the better.
Amen to that. That's what you need. Well, Shirley has a point. She said Jamaican colors in the house got it wrong because you actually have some Jamaican colors. And Polo was said, or the man actually stayed with his parents, which he didn't. He didn't. The man had a whole house to himself because of not a woman he was inviting over. But I digress. None of my business. Again, women stop dating single men, and there's some men dating single women, but it doesn't happen as often.
Ooh, you got me thinking of that topic we was talking about the other day. Because it's like, you ever have heard people talking like about an ex, or like, you know, and they're like, they was never that way with me and yada, yada, yada. I think that goes back to what we was just talking about. Like, look, either you bringing out the best in somebody or you're worst of somebody. And sometimes we be in relationships where a person brings the worst out in you. They got you checking phones, hiding in bushes, doing all kind of crazy stuff. That ain't the best you. That shouldn't be how you present yourself in a relationship. But that's what that person has got. Like, look, when feelings get involved, like you said, the heart wants what it wants. Love is a crazy emotion by itself, you know what I'm saying? And I think that, yeah, we need to do a better job of managing our feelings and leading our lives with a little bit more emotional, intellectual balance, you know, because again, if we just all, hence the title of the show, fuck your feelings.
Well, here's the thing. I know that some of my exes, I did not bring out the best in them. And so if any of their new girlfriends ever came to me and asked me anything, I would say he's a great man and I wish you guys the best. I would never go into details about my relationship with that person because I was a different person at that time, and I'm sure there are people I definitely brought the worst out of, just the way I was, 15, 20 years ago. Rob's exes look at the relationship that we have now, they probably like, who the hell is this man?
No, I can admit that freely. I think that it was a two-way street, like I think that the way that I am and me being so stubborn, and like I said, that's what astrologically, like I'm a Taurus, it's said, like, so again, you could have knew that from day one, just picking up the little star chart. Like this dude is not gonna change his mind about a whole lot of things. He's not gonna beat a dead horse. There's just certain things that I'm not into, and if those things are part of your love language, then it's difficult. You know what I'm saying? Team Taurus for sure. So I own that. I've grown and accepted that in both instances where of my children's mothers, I don't think I brought the best out of them either. I know I didn't, especially I've grown a lot too, I'm a wild boy, kind of like, is what it is.
And we continue. I don't really have much to say. So, get back to getting in your own way. Yeah. I'd be curious to know, for all these people with all of these lists, how many of the people, hey Drew, my boy Drew is on, how many of the people are you meeting are actually meeting some of those lists? Because again, there's your non-negotiables list and your nice to have. If I am completely honest, Rob doesn't meet really any of my nice to haves. He doesn't. I don't think there was, no, because being tall was on my non-negotiable list. I was one of those women, I won't lie, I didn't date short men. They were 6 feet and over, he's 6'9". I felt like I won the lottery, but then I also got a smoker who's lazy and all of those different things.
The funny thing about it. That's why I say you get what you need, not what you want. Like, she needs somebody to be after. Like, if she didn't have me to chase after, talking about how I am just the bull in the china shop, she wouldn't have nothing to do.
I have plenty to do.
You wouldn't have nothing to do.
I have plenty to do. Don't let the people think I sit around here all day and don't do nothing. I have plenty to do. I don't need to add to do list.
Pastime is getting after me.
Yeah, because you don't do the things the way I want them for you to do.
That's what I'm saying. But again, if I was a man that was just like checked every single box, it would drive her crazy, and she'd probably self-sabotage or something like that. Just because it wouldn't. That ain't what you need. You need somebody to drive you a little crazy.
Okay, well, we're here. So
I'm here to do it, y'all. I am definitely on board for driving this woman as crazy as I can.
And he purposely does it. He purposely does. But again,
it's so easy to frustrate you. You know what I'm saying?
But it creates a fun dynamic in the relationship. He wasn't what I thought I wanted, but he definitely was what I needed. And I think that was, I had to recognize I definitely had to recognize what I needed versus what I wanted. Right? I think I had dated some men that I thought that I wanted. And you're right, then I got into it. I'm like, this isn't quite it. There's something a little off balance. And then we got into this situation. Our our banter even was, I think you talked about it on the first show, where you ever kind of have a banter with someone and they say something that hurt your feelings, but you're kind of like, oh my God, that is actually hilarious. Like, I did something like that to you the other day and you started dying of laughter. I don't want to say it online.
But it's like, because that person is such a clear evidence that they're not afraid to, like, say what they feel or say what's on their mind or say something that, again, we're not condoning hate speech or nothing like that. But at the same time, man, I can't support boycotts and walking out of work because you don't like what somebody said.
We live in a world of such politically correctness that it's spilled over into a relationship where people are tiptoeing around the people in their life, including their kids. My girlfriends were telling me, apparently on a Dr. Phil episode, they were going to be talking to this 11-year-old boy who took part of there was this whole TikTok challenge where kids were ruining bathrooms and so forth. Our daughter's, one of the school bathrooms had to be closed. I don't know if they're doing that right now in Canada, but they're definitely doing it in the States. And the woman said that she was afraid to talk to her 11-year-old son because she was afraid of what he would say or do to himself or her. And I was like, so we're afraid of talking to kids now? Like, we can't raise kids? So imagine in that relationship between the adults. If you can't talk to children, are adults speaking to each other? And COVID made people realize that a lot of people are in relationships that they did not speak to each other or even know what the other person wanted. Then they were stuck for months on top of each other 24/7 and realized, I don't like this person. I didn't want that for myself. I didn't want to be in a situation where 2 years from now I look over at him and go, I really hate him and I hate my life with him.
Well, that's because you've been internalizing stuff and just putting up with it or not speaking on it and just dealing with it and thinking you're doing somebody a favor, and then you're only killing yourself with that. That's my take on it, you know. So I think almost immaturely sometimes I like you know how like little boys just take their diaper off and run around naked, like, I'm a provocateur, definitely.
And he pokes me, and I realize, but I digress. But it works for us, and it really is a moment of, and I think I said it last week, you know, there's keeping the peace, and there's also being able to be transparent with the person that you're with. If I can't be transparent with him and tell him what's going on, what's in my head, even how I feel at the moment about a situation, what is the point of the relationship? I don't want, you know, me and my girlfriend used to talk about inner tension. When you go to bed with inner tension because you've been holding on to something that your partner does. Listen, if he's going out the door and it's a certain type of night, I'm like, what the hell are you going? You're just going to be on these streets, and I will say what I say and I go to bed. I don't hold on to it. I'm not texting him after like that. I just say it and he'll look at me and he'll kiss his teeth or whatever, and we go. We're not mad about it, but what if it's on my mind, I say it. As long as it's not offensive, I'm going to say it. He knows how I feel. He got it, and he'll either actually modify his behavior.
I was going to say, that's the catch, though. It ain't like day 4, day 5, day 6, I'm just, Nah, after the second or third night, I'm usually like, okay, I'm due a day in, like, as soon as I'm done working, or if it's a weekend, like, again, it's a balance, like, I don't want to, like you said, like, I just get to run around 24/7 and, like, can do whatever I want to do. Again, it's a two-way street, you know, but she understands that there's certain moving parts of how things function that I don't even trouble her with, I don't bother her about, she don't even need to be worried about it. So that's why I get that wiggle room. Lord, please understand that if I was the type of guy that was just out there in the strip club throwing money, you know,
coming back with
strippers all night, 3, 4, 5 nights a week,
stripper sparkle,
she would not be as appreciative of me being outside of the house as much as I am.
And I also have the password to his phone, so really I can just check at any point what the hell he's doing. But again, for me, it's what you need versus what you want, and non-negotiables versus nice to have. And I think at the end of the day, people have to determine what is it that's important. Are you really getting in your own way because you're looking at nice to haves as non-negotiables? And if the person you want to be with doesn't necessarily meet all of those things on the list, do you disqualify them? Like, what makes somebody disqualifiable? Is that a word? I'm gonna go with it. Disqualifiable. It's probably not asterisk on that one. But what makes somebody really like disqualified off of your list? I'd be curious for the single people on here if you have anything. Like, what is an automatic disqualification for someone when you're dating?
That's a good question.
I used to think it was men with young kids. I used to think that's what it was. I had zero desire to date a man with young kids. And I mean zero, because I had one child at 21 and I chose to not have any more. So for me, I was looking for men who had teenagers or older, or who had kids completely out of the house, because I did not want to deal with anybody else's kid. I'm very honest about it. Then I met him,
Got your boy.
and he had 4 young kids.
Got the whole crew.
So then I realized maybe that wasn't as big of a disqualification when you meet the right person. So I thought, oh, so here is a couple.
Criminal record. That one's
a big deal. Cigarettes and men with young kids. So Cass, I used to actually think that was a disqualifier for me. The criminal record one, a man who's not financially secure. Thank you for keep them coming, people. Keep them.
For me, I must say the one that really stood out to me, in just the way that our personalities got exposed over the last couple of years, was like not just political ideology, but just kind of like identity politics, like ideologies, kind of the big issues, like the mainstreams. Like if she believed in flat Earth, I would find that hard to respect. You feel what I'm saying? That's an easy, clear-cut example, but that's a big deal, because that's going to permeate into a lot of different levels of the relationship. I'm sitting over here like, you're dumb man, believe in a flat Earth. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So I didn't want to be in a situation with anybody that there was those type of like disagreements, like I'm a staunch Republican and you a left-wing Democrat, and it's like I'm like, you freaking liberal wing nut, and you over here like you crazy conservative, and like,
yeah, I think that would be a bit of a deal breaker. Yeah.
So for me, I clearly understood that, like, if we don't kind of view the world similarly, it's going to be hard to navigate the world together.
So I love Cass's saying, she said, I'm tired, no young kids, and a man who's not spiritual. Here is, let me tell you about the transparency of our relationship, because thank you, I'm glad you said spiritual and not religious, because they are two different things.
I ain't dealing with nobody religious either. That's another one. It sounds bad, but I'm done with religious people like that.
Staunch religious people who their entire ideology, their entire existence is based on the Bible, and they want to take the literal sense of the Bible and actually have no discernment between what is literal and what, anyways, we just got to deal with that in our own circle. But
trigger point.
The thing about young kids, I've been transparent with him. I've told him, we have custody of one child, and she's the oldest. And I told him, when the younger ones come to visit, I'm tired. I am not going to be able to give them as much of the time that I give the older one. I don't have to do as much with her. I have no interest in necessarily doing it. So I've been honest about it. Like, I did it. I don't want to change diapers again if that was the case. I don't want to deal with screaming kids. I don't want to deal with any of that. So I said to him, like, when the younger ones come, you're going to actually take a lot of that responsibility. I will deal with the older ones because I just don't have it in me. I'm honest about it. I didn't lie about it. I didn't say, yay, like, can't wait to do this over again. I didn't. I was honest.
Man, shit, but like most people feel like that. Keeping it a buck, I feel that way about my own kids. Like, I've always been, like, all of my people, like, have understood, know that about me. Like, I ain't big into infants, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not my favorite time with the child, you know what I mean? It just isn't. It is what it is. So I'm fortunately in a position where, again, time is going to move whether you want it to not. As your kids get older, whether you're around them or not, whether you're in your life or not, the world going to keep on spinning. You know what I'm saying? So I get that part of it. And so that's why, again, it's really kind of interesting that, again, you see it on Instagram. It's some females are not even waiting to have the kids to move on to start dating the next guy. And it's like, if that's the case, I think you are seriously, as a woman, underestimating the significance of what you're about to go.
Well, just the thing. Polo GSR said multiple baby daddies, and here is
life happens, man. I get it, but come on.
I think,
whoa.
And this is where I'm going to speak to the women directly. Our children are not an asset to other men. They're a liability. In the animal kingdom, the lions certainly do. They kill the children of another male. They don't want to deal with the other male's children. And so as women, when we go in with multiple children from multiple fathers, we have to recognize that we are not necessarily a prize for the next man, because now he's dealing with you and your little liabilities. And so apology is right. There are a lot of, again, sitting in barbershops and listening to men speak, not a lot of them are out there saying, yes, I can't wait to meet that single mother with 3 kids.
Man, we had a funny discussion about it, just keeping it a buck. If Beyonce broke, this was the example, if Beyonce broke up with Jay tomorrow,
that's Beyonce.
It would be no nigga. She would have no shortage of niggas. And I'm saying, even not the fact that she's rich, but she's Beyonce, as your attractiveness goes up, men are more willing to deal with that as a part of the situation. But just as a rule of thumb, let's keep it real, because men understand the fact of the matter is there's something wrong with that messaging. You have 2 different baby fathers, but I'm the one. You have 3 different, again, 1 and 2, okay, but it still makes it tough to kind of sell to the third guy. Once you get past that, it's even harder, because you've done the most significant thing you can do for a man, have his baby. And again, a lot of women tell themselves they didn't do it for him, they did it for themselves. But you're still bonded to that man, regardless of how you want to look at it. You know what I'm saying? He can, it's his kid, biologically, that's his kid.
3 stars.
So the whole thing's a mess, you know what I'm saying? And biological parenting is not the most
3 stars.
You're not gonna get a big parade for it. You know what I'm saying? If you're thinking of that, you're in it for the wrong reasons anyway. You know what I mean?
And I think I talk about it in my book. Girl, that's exactly what I did. Cast Forever Rising, you're on it. Sometimes you gotta wait till they're older. And to be honest, I remember that was my biggest fear, dating with a young child, what I could expose her to for many reasons, and also understanding. And I mean, I had one at 21, and I also didn't want any more children. So I was not an option for a lot of men, because I already had 1 child and I didn't want any. I made it very clear to any man, I don't want any children. I didn't believe in multiple fathers because of my own upbringing. I was I don't do multiple daddies, because I'm not going to do that to my child. I'm not going to have maybe stay with that dad, or she's got to go 1 weekend to that person and then her sibling is going. I didn't believe in it, so I never did it, right? So I knew I had a limited dating pool. And the thing about it is, I also had my own standards. So I also understand that there were certain men that didn't meet my criteria. What I don't like in this day and age is women will bash a man when she doesn't meet his standards, but expect that just feels no way when he doesn't meet hers. Even though sometimes hers are unrealistic. And that's the problem that I'm having, that I'm seeing, is a lot of people are having these unrealistic expectations. They're mad at men who aren't feel it. So what is that?
It's just natural, man. Like for real. Like, okay, fuck your feelings.
Hold on, was it different baby daddies, Polo? I'm just curious if they were, because honestly, having 3 children with one father and only have to deal with one man is very different than having to deal with different daddies coming around to see their kids.
I would say the number of baby daddies is more important than the number of kids, real talk though. Because I don't think, like fuck your feelings, let's talk about it. I have 2 kids I have kids by 2 different women. The only thing that really is evidence though of was that we was having sex. You feel what I'm saying? If she has multiple baby daddies, that means y'all were definitely having sex, but you got pregnant, but you decided that you were going to make him your baby's father. That's why that child is in this world. Can y'all not acknowledge that that is evidence of more of a bond from a woman having a man's child than it is from a man having a woman's child?
I'm going to say yes, and you know I'm going to say yes, because women choose motherhood, men don't necessarily choose fatherhood. And we just gonna keep it real, because again, this is fuck your feelings. As women, we choose motherhood. Fathers don't necessarily get a choice in fatherhood. There are a lot of women whose men told them they didn't want these babies, but they still went ahead and had it. We've all heard the stories. So when I chose to have a child with my daughter's father, I was also choosing to understand that he would be in my life forever. That was a choice I made.
That part. So again, this sounds insensitive, but and I was like, you know what? Even to a man, when you have children by multiple partners, by definition, your relationships are polyamorous. I said it.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know we won't go there this early, but yeah. So he said, I have one son. I said 3. It was challenging, yes, oldest 2 by one man and youngest by another.
Well, let me back that up too, because like I don't know how a lot of y'all is pumping out there in social media world and not like that, but I know speaking for herself and myself is like, I don't see how you have a child with a person and then you have this attitude like, I hate them, they're a piece of scum, they're trash, they're garbage. And not only that, like you communicate that to your child who is 50% them. I don't understand.
That actually was my biggest thing with my daughter's father. I used to say to him, I hope you grow up before she does, because I don't want her to see you for the man that I see. However, I would not go around and say bad things about him to her, because when I looked at her, I saw him. So how dare I go ahead and say 50% of your genetics is crap? 50% of you that I chose to have is crap. I am muting 50% of my child. That's not fair. The reality is men leave relationships, they don't necessarily leave their children.
And on the flip too, like, and isn't it ridiculous to get with someone with kids and then expect that they have no communication with the other parent? Like, that's also dumb. Like, now, it should be with respect. It should be with boundaries towards your new relationship if you are in a new relationship or however that may be going. But to just think that, like, you know, like there was a situation going on with Trey where her and Trevor were talking a lot. It didn't even cross my mind to be like, oh, you're talking to him a lot lately.
We actually all got on a bit of a
right, we got both outside, like I appreciate, you know, you trying to, not trying, I appreciate you stepping up in the situation. Like, and I don't want to put everything all out there, but it was one that was like, it wasn't that he was faced with a difficult decision and he made the difficult decision.
And this was co-parenting.
You know what I'm saying?
And my 20-year-old, she was 19 at the time. Like, I have a whole older child. So imagine if if she was a younger child, right? Like, I don't expect him not to speak to the mother of his young children. That would be ridiculous. Like, what kind of woman would I be saying, well, do not communicate with her? I just don't deal with negativity. If somebody's throwing negativity, then I'm going to block that negativity, because I'm like, I don't think my man should be faced with negativity, because I'm on the other side watching him as we raise our daughter together, my stepdaughter. So I know what kind of father he can be. So when I hear this slinging negativity, I'm like, no, we got to shut that part down. But other than that, there should be free communication. So, go ahead.
In another mini conversation, like the other child of your parents should not be able to cause all kind of wild chaos and strife and issues in your home or in your new relationship. That means that you're not really dealing with stuff, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because look here, no relationship is better than toxic relationship. That's just what it is, at least with me.
That part. So we are going to do what we always do, which is choose a question out of this poll. If you have any, you're going to drop off something off of this sitting. If you have any questions for us, you can ask, but I'm going to have you pick one, and we both have to answer it.
It's my turn.
Yeah, but we both have to answer it.
Something wild, I guarantee it.
Oh my Lord.
What's something you used to believe about relationships but no longer do?
Oh, that's a good question I put there.
I'm gonna go hard on this one, actually. And I remember as a younger man thinking that love was enough. Love could conquer everything.
Oh, wow.
No, love is not. You can't eat love, you can't live in love, you can't drive love, you cannot retire on love. It takes more to make a successful relationship.
I'm done. That was a good one, babe. Okay, so I guess I gotta pick my question. I'm gonna put that one away. Well, thank you for holding the ball.
Oh man.
Good idea. Just go pick my question for me. Okay, so I've got one. How would you describe the feeling of God? How would you describe the feeling of being in love in one word?
Yeah, you got that question, because I don't bomb that shit.
Complicated.
How do you answer for that?
Love is complicated. I think there's different types of love, right?
And think about it. If your partner, if someone asked that question to your partner when y'all was out on a dinner date, and their answer was complicated, how many of y'all would be in your feelings? Let's be real. You'd be like,
That's true. That's true. I never thought about that. Love is complicated.
Complicated. Why is that something to be heard about?
But it's emotions, right? Love is an emotion. Anger is complicated. Sadness is complicated. You know what I'm saying? Like, fear is complicated. They're all emotions. I don't know why we put this emphasis on love just because I didn't say it was complicated. Ooh, girl! That's how I felt when he was giving the little economics lesson. That is a good one. Wow, that is a good one. I've never looked at love that way.
Everybody's a fan of the big
That's so interesting.
The world would be better off with more of them, definitely.
Yes, the world would be better off with more of them. You know, we got some time. We're going to do... Polo said that one. Let's do another question, because I'm actually pretty... Oh, you took two.
You got to make more questions.
Okay, I'm going to make more questions after this. We go.
What's the first thing you found attractive about me? Did I have this question?
No, you did not. I don't put the questions back in the thing.
Well, the first thing, obviously there wasn't a physical meeting at first, so it's nothing physical, even though that's what she wants.
No, that's not what I want to hear. I didn't put those questions in there
she really could understand my way of thinking. Like, she was like, I'd be busting down some stuff that I know I've lost people on, and she'd be like, just sticking with me. And I was like, okay.
Okay, that's sweet. Okay, hold this so I can do my last one and see. Okay, but let's do this one. This question says, what was the last thing I did that totally impressed you? Oh, shoot. What was the last thing you did that totally impressed me? I know.
Unimpressive.
No, that is not true. You're not actually. You know what?
That ain't true at all. I'm just a bully.
You know what? Actually, it does impress me. It was you explaining the economic theory, because I love how his brain works. His brain is actually one of the sexiest things to me. If you're a person who doesn't like someone who just will talk, he is the wrong man, because he'll start and he'll go on this journey. Some people would call it a tangent. I call it a journey, because he takes me in all of these different places and you know, brings me information I didn't know. So I think last thing you did was impressive, was explaining that economic theory. Love you like
Just share
a
some of that YouTube knowledge.
not the YouTube knowledge. Well, if anybody has any topic ideas that they would like to us to talk about, please let us know. Someone did say that we should talk about blended families and co-parenting, and we're definitely going to be talking about that, because that's exactly what we have here in a blended co-parenting.
It sounds.
Well, it's clearly not.
We have a lot of fun too, but again, I think that no one woke up saying I want to be a stepmom or stepdad. Like, let's be 100. But that's the way of the world. 50% of divorces, marriages is ending in divorce. You flip a coin every time you walk down that aisle. So it is what it is. That's why we're here, trying to change the conversation a little bit.
That's what we're saying. So again, thank you everybody for joining Fuck Your Feelings. Again, we're here to change the conversation around Black relationship. Thank you to Polo GSR and Cast Forever and Princess Shelly and Dahlia Joanne, who participated in the conversation. We will see you next week, and we'll surprise you with what the topics are. The topics are going to get a little wilder, so hang on to your panties. Hang on to your panties, because the topics are going to get orgasmic.
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.
Namaste. He says peace. I say namaste.